We're very happy that you're all here. We're very aware we're stealing away some of your precious time, and we're very happy that you took some time to be here. And we're very excited to be to launch officially to launch ONCRA. We have a little introduction of ONCRA, what it is. After that, we'll put the spotlight on all the amazing removers, which is Ingrid, Joost, Kai, Bart, and Wilco. And then we have a really awesome panel, amongst other Philippe and also Reinhard from the province of Gelderland. After that, we have a little Q&A, a big call to action, and after that, a small fireside chat with to answer a bit more questions and have a bit more discussion.
So introducing ONCRA. First, who are we? Then what is ONCRA? Removals only, measurement based. Our organization. Onsets, what is onsetting? And then distributed scaling by, of course, and then we'll go back to the removers, the people who actually remove carbon with nature. So who are we? Well, people reversing climate change. Climate Cleanup Foundation started in 2018 in Amsterdam and is an independent entrepreneurial nonprofit that enables scalable nature-based climate solutions to restore the Earth's carbon balance. Because what needs to be done, of course, we need to reduce emissions, and then actually it is a pleasure to remove carbon dioxide as well by regenerating life on Earth. And our goal is to remove 1,500 gigaton, because that's what needed to really reverse global warming. And we can still achieve this by working with nature and nature-based solutions. And 1,500 gigaton happens to be about the amount that is stored by nature right now in plants and trees. And we know that this can be done because there's a special group of people who have already begun. Regenerative entrepreneurs working with seaweed, regenerative farmers, with rock weathering, with bio-based building, and who are all working with nature, removing carbon. This is how the United Nations, the IPCC, looks at carbon removal. From the left, the human-made constructions, timber construction, it's also growing plants and trees, soil carbon sequestration, biochar, all the land-based storage pathways. Then to the right, the ocean-based biological pathways, which are also luckily now in scope, and the geochemical pathways, which under one of them, enhanced weathering. And here you see, maybe, yes, how the ONCRA protocols map on those on this IPCC framework. So from construction stored carbon, on the left, everything that grows, all the plants store carbon, to land stored carbon, everything in and on the soil, ocean-based and rock stored carbon for the enhanced weathering solutions. And our question is, why don't we make all this together scale as a sector? And in many conversations over the years, what came out time again is that carbon accounting systems are not working for many smaller scale nature innovators. And many small make one big, right? Who remove carbon with nature. So that's what we're doing today, trying to solve that puzzle. And we see ONCRA really as the systemic missing link in this puzzle. So ONCRA is conceived to enable many smaller scale entrepreneurs to monetize this carbon removal. We are storing carbon. This is such a value for current and future generations. Let's monetize that and make sure that people and governments can pay for that. And our goal is to scale as a sector distributed, heading up to real gigaton removal scale. And the good thing is those four sectors, removal sectors, pathways, have the potential to scale towards even this 1,500 gigaton scale. And the epiphany, really the birth of ONCRA, was that removal can be measured. Removal in nature can all be measured. Just imagine a block of wood. When you know the weight, you know how much carbon is in there. The removal is the actual storage of CO2, so which results in products, in soil, and in rocks that have been weathered. So natural removal credits are fundamentally different from reduction credits. And actually in a good way, because the birth of ONCRA was when we realized we can measure all this nature-based removal, which greatly makes it much more accurate and much simple to do the carbon accounting for this. So measuring, how does it work? For soil, there's a well-established lab-based process, which is simply drying the soil, weigh it, burn it in an oven, and then weigh it again. And everything that was biogenic or biology or storage in life, that's the difference in the weight. You know the carbon. This can now also be measured in situ. You see the picture in the middle is the AgroCast scanner we're using with a number of removal projects, and which we found it just 2 weeks ago as a really a solid result within 5% margin of the lab-based measurements. So that's great. There's remote sensing. We're actually using ESA biomass data, which you see in the little map. It's a data set that's openly accessible as ONCRA tries to work open source, open data. Also here we use this. It's not that difficult to see how much carbon is there in the baseline situation, as we call it. We'll come to that in a little. And for buildings, simply the way of construction materials tells you, the weight tells you how much carbon is in there, if you know what material it is, like bamboo or straw or CLT, cross-laminated timber, hemp panels, etc. So we can measure. So that's what we do. Using metrics like this one for construction stored carbon. Looks a bit complicated. Actually isn't. It's just the volume times the density times the carbon that's in there. You know how much CO2 it is, and we all convert this to a 100-year time scale, which the IPCC actually calls permanent. So we have no discussion like if carbon is stored for a shorter time or longer time. We all calculate that. So if you measure the carbon in your soil, what happens very simply, the dark brown piece is actually with Purinator, with Wilco, will be with us in a bit. You see the baseline, which is the carbon that's currently in the soil, and then over time we do measurements where we will check the expected increase of soil carbon and the difference between the black line or the green line here and the black line. This is the carbon stored, and we simply sell credits based on the difference. So this we codified in guidelines over the past year or so, with the main points. As a remover, you need to supply an ownership contract. You know, is it you? Is it yours? Is the soil yours or the building? Carbon data points, which many people like farmers already often have. Regenerative farmers, you are doing your soil scans, soil data. And then we have a 20% like insurance. Sure. So it's a 20% holding pool. And ONCRA operates on a 7% fee with no upfront costs for removers. Guidelines can be downloaded now from the website oncra.org, as can be the 4 protocols, all for the 4 scalable removal pathways. And the guidelines also support research and development removal credits, because ocean stored carbon and rock stored carbon, but also in land and constructions, innovation is needed to scale this very young sector as fast as possible. How is ONCRA organized? A Climate Cleanup Foundation acts as ecosystem stewards, and ONCRA is an independent organization within this ecosystem, providing a place to store the data and a ledger for removers and buyers. Data is stored, credit comes out, you've got a certificate which a remover can sell to a buyer, and it's all stored in its bookkeeping, basically. And this ecosystem has been developed really with along existing carbon accounting practices and emerging best practices, because carbon removal accounting is under development. For example, with the PCAF, the Partnership Carbon Accounting Financials, who have really well-established rules for emission accounting in portfolios for financial institutions. This has been a huge Dutch success story, actually started around the Paris Agreement time, and currently have 80 trillion of assets under management, who all declared to assess their carbon along those standards and to disclose the emissions. So that's a good success. We align to those accounting standards, well established, and we work with the European Commission, civil servants, and designers of the policies to align ONCRA with the emerging policies right there. For us, it's a real pleasure to collaborate. Some of them with us later in this presentation. Then there is just one more thing. The buyers. Because how do we make offsets really work for the climate? Now, ONCRA considers carbon credits income to be fundamentally transition finance. Coming 7 years, or maybe science tells us, like crucial for the next 10 or 100,000 for life on Earth, right? So the finance we need now, we need for this transition, we don't need it in 10 years, we need it now. And if it's so relatively simple to just to keep the carbon data and get income, why don't we make it work now? So onsets are regenerative removals with nature, because carbon is life, really. And everything that grows has carbon. So not working with nature just doesn't make sense. And they can only be bought, this is crucial, by buyers who prioritize reduction first, and show that they do that. Following the so-called Oxford offsetting principles, a group of economists at Oxford University try to answer this question: how do we make offsets work for the climate? And they say very clearly, prioritize reducing first. And then also, when you look in the principles on the right, shift offsetting towards removal, with long-term storage and basically support innovation. So we try to align with that as much as possible, which means that only companies who wish to offset reduction emissions, they are. We really say you need to. It's better to see it as cleaning up your mess, your dirt. Pay for only the reductions, the emissions that you really cannot reduce anymore. So also the buyers go to the due diligence process where we do KYC. So now, when are we going to make this work? The idea emerged in around 2019. We identified the need for ONCRA, launching today after a soft launch before summer. While we're aligning with EU policy, in 2023, ONCRA will become a separate legal entity as well. Right now, it exists within Climate Cleanup. And then in this decade, we will have 10,000 removers at least connected to collectively remove at least a gigaton of CO2. So in 2050, we have reversed global warming. That's our timeline. So concluding, removals only, measurement-based actual data, and onsetting. So not for polluters, nature-based carbon removals. And thus ONCRA enables, this is Kate Rayworth who put this forward, distributed scaling. Like a tree, like the leaves on a tree, like this oak tree, a big oak tree has about 1 million leaves, they say. And these are just tiny, small little leaves. But with all the million of them, they're able to make this tree breathe, actually. And the thing is, just in spring, in 1 or 2 weeks, all those million leaves appear really within a very short time. They really emerge from the structure called tree. So this is distributed scaling, and this is how we're setting ONCRA. We're setting up ONCRA to enable this kind of scaling, where we will really support biodiverse systems all over the planet. Now, let's talk to the people who do the actual work. Nature innovators, regenerative entrepreneurs, special people who see a future that's not yet there, then take risk, and first of all, who act, the actual removers. We'll start with Joost Wouters at the Seaweed Company.
We are the Seaweed Company, a Netherlands-based impact enterprise that operates on a global scale. With our team of over 40 people, all totally hooked on weed, we sustainably farm seaweed to improve the health and well-being of animals, humans, soils, and crops. Through our Blue Impact program, we aim to provide you, as the investor, with the opportunity to purchase nature-based carbon removal credits, helping you to become part of a future-proof planet.
The problem is twofold. Firstly, mass release of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere through fossil fuel emissions. And secondly, the degradation of our agricultural land through modern farming practices. Both of these combined have released 880 gigatons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. There is a globally scalable, low-cost solution that exists right under our feet. We grow seaweeds on our own farms. We turn that seaweed into a fully nature-based biostimulant. We use that biostimulant alongside regenerative agricultural techniques to sequester carbon from our atmosphere back into our soils on a vast scale. Through the purchase of our carbon removal credits, you catalyze this process. Join our team, invest in regeneration, and become part of the solution.
So that was the seaweed company, and we have someone called Ingrid from the seaweed company. You work for this wonderful organization, and we were wondering, what is your impact goal with the seaweed company, and how will you get there?
Well, first of all, congratulations to the whole ONCRA team on this very exciting day. So I'm really excited myself as well. So I'm Ingrid Jonker. I'm the business development lead for our blue farming department within the seaweed company. And we're first of all an impact company. So we implement regenerative, scalable carbon sequestering projects with farmers across the globe, accelerated by our seaweed-based biostimulant and igniting positive feedback loops for soil regeneration. And our goal is to regenerate 1 million hectares by 2030. So with the help of ONCRA, we're able to scale up fast by selling measurement-based carbon removal credits and support farmers with our seaweed-based biostimulants. So that's why we're also very excited.
Awesome. And it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you for all your help.
Yes.
So, and we have another remover called Joost Borneman from Bamboo Logic. And for that, we have another short little video.
Joost, can you hear us already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hear me also?
What are we looking at?
This is our 5-year-old bamboo field in Sidigueira. It's been realized 5 years ago. Here you can see the growth of the bamboo. It was planted on degraded soils. You can see that brings back a lot of green, the green field. And here you see the 120 hectare we are planting in Alpecin. It is the first for the scale up of the bamboo industry. And yeah, this is needed to regenerate the soil and bring a European industry. We capture here the water also to have like the rainwater used in the first years. It's just an impression of what the work we are doing in Portugal.
And where are you now, Joost?
I'm a little bit up north in Portugal. I was in the field, but the data was not very good, so I'm back in the home. It's a location with Portuguese farmers. There was a bushfire last summer, so they are looking for new crops to implement, to regenerate, and also, to bring back life on this earth.
And you're a co-founder of Bamboo Logic, right?
Yes.
So how do you remove carbon with nature?
We grow bamboo on degraded soil, capturing the carbon in the plants and in the soil. And in a later phase, because bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world, after 5 years, we can also harvest the bamboo every year for the upcoming 100 year. So you can also store it in a later phase in constructions. But the first phase is put it back in the soil and regenerate.
And why is ONCRA important to you?
Like I said, it is when you plant bamboo, a farmer has to wait 5 up to 7 years before revenue start. Well, from year one, you start capturing carbon and put it in the soil. And by having carbon removal credits, because that's what actually happened, it can bring some revenue to the farmer in the early years. So that's very important for us to scale our industry in Portugal on our own fields, but also to convince other farmers who are looking for a new business model to start with growing bamboo.
Super. Thanks, Joost. You'll stay with us for questions.
Yes.
We go to Kai Geertsma from Greensand.
So my name is Kai from Greensand, and I'm here presenting you Olivine, Greensand Olivine. This is our solution, or not our, it's Mother Nature's technology to actually remove CO2 from the air by taking it out of the rain. And these are just a few fractions. And you might be wondering, why am I outside? I'm actually right now here at a facility plant of Batavus, who is a client of us in the Netherlands, who has used this stone just as actually as a application for their facility. And this is how we are actually removing CO2 by just using Mother Nature's power and technology. And the reason is I'm here just to show you the actual how it works in real life.
Awesome. Great that you're there. And we were wondering, what are some of the barriers that you are facing towards scaling up your business?
Well, for us personally, the biggest barrier is the stone. It's not that sexy, and even people are these days, they're saying, yeah, we're all sustainable. At the moment, people have to pay for sustainability. We can see that people are holding off. That's our two parts of what is pretty heavy for us. And also because it's a stone, it has quite a weight, so it's also pretty expensive in transport, etc. So that's the biggest problems for scale up. And of course, politics is also something we can discuss for hours about.
Yeah. We hope we can help you in any way we can. And I think we can all say you definitely make Olivine very sexy. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Then I'm now gonna put this back to the earth. So we're gonna clean a little bit more CO2 together. This is in the name of ONCRA.
Ooh, thank you.
That was it.
Thank you,
Good
Kai.
day.
Thank you very much, Kai. You'll be with
No
us,
worries.
right? And we'll go to Wilco de Zeeuw at Boer Natuur.
Wilco said he had some problems with getting the Zoom link on his phone. So he's moving to his PC. Hopefully he'll be there in time.
Great. In the meanwhile, we'll start with you if you're okay. So where are you, Bart?
I'm actually at my test hectare. So we got 1 hectare to test an agroforestry system. The idea is for it to be scalable. So we want to basically be scalably capturing carbon from the air, but still providing food from these hectares as well. So our aim is to convert agricultural land to be absorbing as much CO2 as possible.
You're the founder of,
and
you were the founder of Scave,
yes.
but you used to work as a econometrist at BlackRock, and you founded a company in Brazil, right?
Yes.
Where Philippe here comes from. So why did you decide then to why are you now removing carbon with nature?
I guess my kids got bored, and I was like, I really want them to grow up in a world that has biodiversity, that has life, that has that abundance. And I got into contact actually with the same guy that Felipe learned from Ernst Goetz. And I saw that video and I was like, wait a second, this is like win. Like you can produce more food, you can capture carbon, you can store more water, you can create massive biodiversity. So this is something that's just need to do. So I started exploring the concept like 4 years ago, and then we started our first farm in Brazil. Then the second farm in Brazil during Corona. And then because of Corona, we came back to Holland and it was like, okay, the economics work a little bit differently in Holland, so we need to change the model around a little bit. So that's what we're testing here, basically. So that we have something that we can actually scale, basically as Joost is doing on degraded, abandoned farmland, because there's a lot of that, and still provide enough food so everyone has food to eat, but also capture the carbon. That is a massive issue right now. And we're all feeling the global warming. Like, I'm in Holland in November in a t-shirt. Like,
But you are always in a t-shirt, right, Bart? Okay.
And how do you think about scaling, Bart, and why do you need ONCRA?
so basically for this model to scale faster, because like it's the same thing. You invest in trees, 8-10 years from now, they will give you returns. And you can cover that gap using financing. But for it to scale faster, getting faster cash flow in allows you to convert more land more quickly. So it will allow us to convert more land more quickly. And what I really love about ONCRA is that it's accessible for this. Like, it's 1.5 hectares and I can still participate. And that, thinking about the fact that 94% of farmers worldwide have 5 hectares or less, we need this distributed scaling. We need access to this, because those are usually the farmers that are doing the right thing, that are already storing carbon and that are having to convert to systems that actually don't help. So they have a beautiful, massive agroforestry system, but there's no market. So they have to convert to rice, which is one of the most polluting things there are. So if we can give them that extra support, give them that financing to keep what they're doing, I think that's really important. So I think this allows us to scale and have the scale that we need in the next 10 years to actually capture all the carbon that's necessary.
Yeah, and Wilco de Zeeuw at Boer Natuur is also
It's joined.
one of those examples, right? Or one of those.
Yeah. I think he just joined. I think what is most amazing about his examples, that he's really showing that it's possible to locally provide the diet for local people in a very circular way, using the minimum of fossil fuels to actually produce food. So I think you should go talk to him, because you've seen my trees here, you've seen my system. We need to get going to the next one. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Bart.
Very much. Thanks very much for setting this up.
Wilco, are you already online?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great.
Finally.
On your farm, I see.
Yes.
Where are you?
I am in Uden. That's in the south part of the Netherlands.
We were wondering, how do you remove carbon with nature?
Well, it's actually a side effect, because our primary goal is to produce food and biodiversity. And we are on a very sandy soil, quite a poor soil. So we want to improve this soil, and we want to imitate how nature does work. And for that reason, we use a lot of perennial crops. And that's actually the way we can store carbon. So the most important for us is to restore our soils.
And really bring back the life again to our soils.
Yeah, and disturb as little as possible. And the agroforestry is really helpful with that, especially for the fungal material ratio.
And we were also wondering, how could ONCRA help you with your business?
Well, we have a lot of visitors, and we want to show other farmers this way of farming, and they ask, how can we get this financially done? And this helps, because ONCRA is a way for smaller businesses to start using the carbon credits.
Thank you very much. So why don't we move to our panel?
Yes.
Our distinguished panel, as they say at conferences like this. Together at COP. Together, yeah. and Philippe Piella, and Reinhard, we'll get to you in a second. Reinhard Augustein. Philippe, you're the founder of, or co-founder of Renature. And we were wondering, you're on a mission to make regenerative agroforestry mainstream on the world, right? Yeah. How do you do this with Renature?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sven, Tijn, and everyone. I'm really excited about the ONCRA launch. I think it has a huge potential. I'm already talking to all smallholder farmers we're working with about ONCRA, and they're all already super excited to collaborate. As Bart was also saying, that there's a big challenge, for SMEs, but also like smallholder farmers to access and these carbon credits with such a high cost of this certification. So I think they're now with ONCRA, we really can support that. But just give a short introduction why we want to make it mainstream regenerative is because I come from a citrus farm in Brazil, a family farm. And since I was a child, I have seen the massive deforestation in the Amazon rainforest. And I was asking myself, why do we have to harm nature and the forest ecosystems so bad if we can produce food with more harmonious way of including nature and forest using agroforestry and regenerative? And I started understanding that, all the answers are lying with nature, and we can actually really use nature's knowledge to apply into, from smallholder to large farmer context. So that's how Renature was born. I had to move to the Netherlands because in Brazil, nobody was listening on the importance and relevance of such topics. But now, of course, it's picking up. So Renature is a Dutch organization, but we are working mostly in the global south. So we have like one or two things in Europe, but our primarily focus is in Brazil, Mexico, Kenya, and Indonesia, where deforestation rates and soil degradation rates are growing rapidly. And what we're doing is basically supporting farmers and corporates in the transition through capacity building, measurements of some KPIs, as well as access to premium prices and carbon markets. So, for example, let's say, Lush wants to buy some kind of crops from regenerative farms. So we kind of do this also connection between farmers who wants to get access to premium prices in the market with companies that are willing to pay. Because when you talk about agroforestry, the biggest challenge of farmers are, hey, I'm a coffee farmer. You're telling me to plant avocado, but I don't know where to sell my avocado trees, So we try to also support farmers to have access to like better prices in the market for this kind of super products besides the cash crop of the farmer. So that's a few things we're doing, and we believe that in order for us to reach like a scalable model, we have launched this campaign called 2% for the Planet, which is basically our goal is to get 2% of total farmland and farmers transition to regenerative agriculture by 2035, which equals to 100 million hectares and 10 million farmers. So it's a very big, hairy, audacious goal, but I think we need to be as much as possible that in order for us to really remove enough CO2 from the air and recover biodiversity for a more thriving society ahead of us.
Yeah, let's do it. Reinhard Augustein. Yeah, you're a civil servant with the province of Gelderland, right? And you've been super supportive in setting ONCRA up and in conceiving the idea. Why do you think, and your mission is really to accelerate climate policy, right? And climate impact. So why do you think that something like ONCRA, why do you think it's important as a civil servant?
I think we have to assist also as civil servants, of course, the transition in the agriculture. And that's, I think, the main thing what Philip also just told us. So we have to go for a different way, and that's in Holland very, very needed, because we are very much have this problems with nitrogen now, and the climate, of course, with anything. So what we are doing as a province, but also in the Netherlands, is to go into this transition. But that needs new business models for farmers, and also what Philip said. Also in the rest of the world, what we see with this kind of carbon accounting, so far it was very bureaucratic. It cost a lot of things to, and I think the nice thing you do is that it's open source.
Yeah,
it's for everyone can see it. That it looks like the bureaucratic things can be minimalized. So you still need certification, but it's at a more open source base. And we really believe also in Gelderland, and I think more people, that you need actually two targets. First is the target, of course, what you said before. You have to be really sure that you reduce your CO2 emissions. Everyone who goes for ONCRA should do that. But the second one is that we also have to increase the target for sequestration. So to get the CO2 out of the air. And I believe that this kind of ideas you have with the seaweed, with the farms, etc., that will help us a lot. And it will also assist in this business model what the farmers need at this moment to make this transition.
You've been inspirational, because we actually trying to set up ONCRA as a government agency, like it were. So we think civil servants are highly undervalued right now.
We have a big task, so it's very difficult, of course, how we have to work. But we are more and more inspired actually by all kind of common and what the commons do and what you are doing. So we try to see how we can cooperate. And of course, we have this bureaucratic things, and things have to be accounted for. So, but we see that what you are doing is a step in that direction. So I think that is very important. And for the people who are watching, we had this CDM, this clean development mechanism, but that was very bureaucratic. I've worked with that in Vietnam with small scale farmers. I really hope this will help, and the money really goes to the farmers. So we have to shorten the chains, and also this will help with ONCRA.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add to what quickly on what Reiner is also saying, because as this case that you mentioned with Vietnam with smallholder farmers, I totally agree. And also, there's a lot of lack of education for farmers on the carbon credits itself, because most of these carbon traders, they are getting like a huge commission of this carbon, and farmers they don't realize that that the money is not going to them in the end. So I think that that's super important to recognize, but also that's why ONCRA is here, and I'm super excited. We're talking about 15,000 like smallholder farmers that we would like to introduce ONCRA. So I'm really happy that with this launch, and I look forward to generating this removals together.
Super, they'll make a big. That's a good start for the 500 million farmers in the world.
Yeah,
right?
And I want also to congratulate you as climate cleanup with all the people who you are getting involved now, because it's really a community, and that community is very strong, but they can help each other. I think that is one of your great things, this movement of people who work together, and that's this thing. Then another thing, one last for me, I'm always talking a lot, is this sustainable development goals which you have in it. I think that's also for the governments very important. So it more and more this becomes an issue. You can get of course, with the donut economy, and also this SDGs. That is more and more important. In Holland, it's called, most people are brede welvaart, but this SDGs or gross national happiness is very, very important, and I think this will also assist, and it's good that you have it in your accounting.
Gross national happiness, for sure. Before we go, we want to hear from the audience before we open the Q&A. Tijn, our call to action. You were talking about ecosystem, ecosystem. It's ecosystem, it's ecosystem at ONCRA.org. Please, you are all invited to join this ecosystem. And second, as of today, thanks to our magical ICT team and everyone involved, we have onsets actually for sale at onsets.org, for which the income goes directly to the removers. So that's our call to action, onset.org, and join our ecosystem. Then it's now time for a Q&A.